Tonight, the Democrats embracing Trump's tariffs, the American war in Africa, and why YouTube rewards conspiracy theorists. A convoy of 46 trucks carrying food and essential aid was allowed to cross into eastern Ghouta today, despite a Syrian government assault on the suburb. But the UN office organizing the delivery said that many life-saving health supplies weren't allowed on the trucks. More than 700 civilians have died in the past 2 weeks, as the Assad regime and its Russian allies have tried to break up rebel control of the area. There wasn't a clear winner in Italy's national elections yesterday, but anti-establishment and populist parties are the ones celebrating. The Five Star Movement, which is critical of the EU, got around 1/3 of the vote, and the Anti-Immigrant League Party, led by Matteo Salvini, won about 18% of the vote. Now they'll be in negotiations to shape a new coalition government.
È una vittoria straordinaria che ci carica di orgoglio, di gioia, di responsabilità, perché milioni di italiani ci hanno chiesto di riprendere per mano questo paese.
North Korean leader Kim Jong-un met with a delegation of senior South Korean officials today. It's the first time Kim's been involved in such a meeting since he came to power in 2011, and it comes after North Korea attended the Pyeongchang Winter Olympics. The delegation, which includes South Korea's National Security Advisor and its National Intelligence Service Director, plans to spend 2 days in Pyongyang. They're trying to improve relations not only between the North and South, but possibly between the North and the United States. Arkansas has become the third state to win approval from the Trump administration to tie work requirements to Medicaid. Under the state's proposal, people between the ages of 19 and 49, with a few exceptions, would need to work or volunteer 20 hours a week in order to get benefits. Medicaid was created in 1965 to help lower-income populations, and until this year, the program had never imposed these kinds of conditions on enrollees. The changes will reportedly affect 39,000 people in Arkansas.
This is not about punishing anyone. It's about giving people an opportunity to work.
Mississippi Senator Thad Cochran announced today that he's resigning for health reasons. The 80-year-old Republican has served in the Senate since 1979, and he rose to become chairman of the Appropriations Committee, one of the most powerful positions in Congress. But his declining health has kept him away from work for long stretches. Cochran will leave office on April 1st, and the governor of Mississippi will appoint a temporary replacement. In November, voters will choose a new senator to fill out the remaining 2 years in Cochran's term. Today in Washington, Speaker Paul Ryan's office made a public break with President Trump's plan to impose tariffs on imported steel and aluminum. But the president made it clear that he doesn't intend to back off.
No, we're not backing down. Mexico is, we've had a very bad deal with Mexico, very bad deal with Canada. It's called NAFTA. Our factories have left our country, our jobs have left our country. People have to understand our country on trade has been ripped off by virtually every country in the world.
Trump's plan is vintage populism. The tariffs are designed to make imported steel more expensive, which would in theory make it easier for American steel to compete. That's way out of step with mainstream economic policy, especially for a Republican. But there are pockets of support for the tariffs, even in places that don't support Trump.
There's a long history of progressives opposing free trade and supporting high tariffs. Bernie, back in 2016, raised the idea of adding new tariffs when he ran for president. Elite technocrat liberals might knock it, but protectionism plays pretty well here in places like Western Pennsylvania, which is steel country, or at least it was, before most of the steel jobs went away.
I think countries that aren't playing by the rules and are cheating, there needs to be some correction by our government. Otherwise, it's not fair trade.
That's Mike Doyle, the Democratic congressman who represents most of Pittsburgh. I ran into him at a Democratic Party event here in Allegheny County. This is an area where a lot of people think the government needs to step in and rebuild the manufacturing economy that used to dominate places like this. The steelworkers who are left here want to keep their jobs. And some dream that things could go back to the way they were when there were thousands more steel jobs than there are now. They believe that tariffs can help make that happen. So that means that while Democrats can continue to bash Trump on any number of policy ideas, it's harder to message that way when it comes to tariffs, especially in steel country. I mean, do you think that this makes it harder? I mean, you're on his side of the issue, but does it make it harder to beat him next time that he's done it?
He shouldn't be doing it to get voters in Western Pennsylvania. He should be doing it because it's the right thing to do, okay? And he'll be judged by that. A lot of us that have been around and know how this guy operates aren't going to be fooled by him coming down here and making a grandiose statement. We've heard that all before. We'll wait and see the contract that's in writing that's actually binding.
The president will be here Saturday to campaign for a Republican who is struggling in a House special election. Don't be surprised if he uses his tariff plan to suggest voters pull the lever for the GOP candidate. But there are a lot of Democrats who just don't want any Democrat to ever agree with Trump on anything, right?
Western Pennsylvanians are pragmatic liberals, okay? And if President Trump's going to do something that benefits the people that I represent, I'm going to be for that. That doesn't mean that we're all of a sudden for him. That just means he did one thing we like, okay? He's done 100 things we hate. One thing we like, he's still minus 99 in our book.
The Deferred Action for Childhood Arrivals program, or DACA, was set to expire today. But a series of court injunctions has temporarily halted President Trump's plans to end the program. So are the Dreamers safe? Not exactly. DACA offers undocumented immigrants who are brought to the U.S. as children a work permit, social security number, and protection from deportation. With one caveat: it must be renewed every 2 years. And in September, Attorney General Jeff Sessions said DACA recipients whose permits expired after March 5th would not be allowed to renew them. So some people who normally would have applied to renew their status couldn't.
My name is Hugo, and I have DACA, and my DACA expires on March 9. So I missed it by 4 days.
But in January, DACA recipients caught a break. A district judge in California struck down Trump's plan, calling DACA a lawful program that would cause irreparable harm if terminated, and ordering U.S. Citizenship and Immigration Services to continue renewing DACA statuses for existing recipients like Hugo.
It was kind of a roller coaster ride at that point. I spoke with my lawyer. She told me to go for it and try to renew my DACA as soon as possible. I submitted my application on January 28th to renew my DACA. Back in January, I knew that I was definitely not going to be able to have my new DACA permit with me March 9th.
The relief from the court came too late. It can take up to 120 days or longer to process an application. When Hugo submitted his application, he only had 40 days before his status was set to expire. Not enough time to get his renewal.
Even if you were able to get it in the first day they were accepting applications, given the historic slow processing and delays that can occur, it's hard to know exactly how quickly those applications will be adjudicated. And so people who are right on March 9th likely are going to have a gap.
On February 26th, the Supreme Court rebuffed a Trump administration request for an expedited hearing, keeping DACA intact for now. But starting tomorrow, more than 400 people each day could face a lapse in their status while they wait for their renewal to be processed. During that time, DACA recipients could lose their jobs and driver's licenses. The government has said that Dreamers whose status has lapsed will not be a priority for deportation, but the government is also not promising to protect them, and that has Hugo fearful.
After March 9, I'm not going to have my work permit anymore. I'm not going to have any sort of protection. It's just going to be a waiting game. Every day is going to be waking up and, okay, is it here today? Do we have it today? Did it come in today?
This weekend, a pro-ISIS group released a propaganda video that it says shows the ambush that killed 4 American soldiers in Niger last October. Part of the video appears to be taken from a soldier's helmet camera moments before his death. The Americans were killed during what was meant to be a low-risk patrol with local troops. The video shows how little cover the soldiers had. The Pentagon is preparing to release its findings on what went wrong, and the questions about the American military's mission in Africa are piling up.
A year before ambushing US troops on the Niger-Mali border, the Islamic State in the Greater Sahara, or ISGS, staged a daring prison break on this maximum security facility. The attack failed, but it showed the growing strength of a group that was little known outside Niger at the time.
C'est ça, de l'attaque, ici?
Ouais, donc c'est les images.
Les balles. Beaucoup. Hein. Donc, c'était de cette direction?
Oui. Ici.
Avec...
Mais là-bas, on a tiré.
Ah oui?
Encore oui.
Okay, so when the militants came into the front of the prison, this is the courtyard, there was a gunfight. You can see the bullet holes in the wall over there. This gate is where they were trying to break through. This is the entrance to the maximum security area of the prison. We're not allowed to go in there, but that was the target.
The group's leader, Adnan Abu Walid al-Sahrawi, had pledged allegiance to ISIS in 2015. The attempt at a prison break was seen as a move to get the attention of ISIS leadership abroad and add to his ranks at home. The warden says this is one of the men Sahrawi was trying to free. He said he was talking of his own free will, but an armed guard was present throughout.
What do you think they were trying to do that day? What was the objective of that raid?
Altamé
is serving a 15-year sentence on terrorism charges after a cache of weapons was found at his home. He's from the border area with Mali where ISGS has taken a foothold. But when asked about Sahrawi, Altamé gave the same answer as other prisoners. Niger's Interior Minister Mohamed Bazoum has been tracking Sahrawi's rise over the years.
Where do you think Sahrawi is now?
Sahrawi, I think that he is somewhere here.
Just across the border?
Yes, in this area.
Moving around, moving from place to place?
Yes.
What do you know about Sahrawi himself?
He had some responsibilities in the Mujawou. He had 4 wives and he is in the bush.
Is he public enemy number 1 right now?
For us, yes, he is the public enemy number 1.
The US is supposed to be training Nigerian troops to deal with terrorism on their own. But as security threats in the region have grown, the US has been quietly shifting how it operates here.
Is it common for Nigerian forces to make operations with the Americans?
I don't know how much, but there have been some operation and
across the border.
Across the border, and
more
than one, I think, and things went right. But that day in Tongo, there have been what happened.
Terrorist activity isn't confined to Niger. The Sahara Desert has become a breeding ground for scores of groups who exploit the region's porous borders to move weapons and avoid capture, making it a new priority for US counter-terrorism efforts.
Tillaberi is hugely important.
That's near where the attack happened,
yeah,
right?
Exactly.
Yep,
right around in that area there.
No one from US Africa Command would agree to an interview on camera for this story, but we were able to talk to a former commander of US Special Forces in Africa. Donald Baldock retired just months before the American soldiers were ambushed. He says there's a problem with how Washington is classifying its military mission in Africa.
What is the threat in those areas where these guys are operating?
It parallels the threat in Afghanistan and Iraq. It really does. They use the same tactics, they use the same techniques, they operate the same way.
It sounds like a combat environment.
It is a combat environment.
Official mission is advise and assist.
Advise and assist, right.
There's a tension there. There's an obvious kind of
Yes.
Contradiction.
There is a tension. And we need to cut through that. We need clear policy. We need a clear strategy and a clear operational approach. We don't have those. That our military are going to be involved in combat operations through, with, and by our partners. And we are going to be using military force to take out high-value targets. And this, by definition, is combat operation.
Baldock says that tension has led to a lack of transparency on what the US military is doing in Africa.
Should we have a better approach in explaining ourselves and being more transparent? Yes, absolutely. And that's not being done. So when something like this happens, it's like, oh my God, where did this come from? And why do we have Americans in Africa?
Case in point, 600 miles northeast of Niger's capital, the US military's biggest construction project on the continent is underway. This is the presumed new headquarters for American drone operations. When the runway's finished, it'll support armed Reaper drones capable of reaching targets in Libya, Nigeria, Chad, and Mali. It's crucial to broader US counterterrorism plans in the region, but many Americans have never heard of Agadez. Likewise, even Nigerians living directly outside the new base don't have much of an idea of what's happening.
Who knows what a drone is?
I used to say it was through films, but in Agadez,
which films?
In this is 24 hours, Jack Boy.
24.
Yeah, 24. I really love it.
Despite misgivings in Niger and the US, Niger's president sees the project as part of a crucial new role for the US in the security of this region.
Les États-Unis font partie des pays qui ont bien compris que la menace terroriste n'a pas de frontières. Et aujourd'hui, c'est le Sahel qui est menacé, mais demain, ça peut être les États-Unis eux-mêmes. Des pays comme les nôtres seuls ne peuvent pas faire face à cette menace.
What is your message to Americans now, after this has happened, moving forward?
Un ennemi commun, et nous nous félicitons du combat que nous menons la main dans la main, côte à côte, Nigériens et Américains, au point de verser notre sang côte à côte.
We never had an active shooter drill at my school.
Last month, if you typed David Hogg into YouTube, the top results claimed the Parkland teen was a crisis actor. YouTube has since taken down the videos, but the problem reignited questions about the secret formula YouTube uses to promote content and keep users glued to the site. One engineer who worked there says YouTube's algorithm is promoting conspiracy theories.
So the big goal of YouTube recommendations is to maximize watch time. So it's to maximize the amount of time people spend watching YouTube videos. So doing the recommendation is one of the most tricky part of YouTube because you need to compute for every single person the best video to show them. Any small difference in the quality of the engine is going to have a huge impact on YouTube's engagement and revenue.
This reality is the result of a deliberate and entirely reasonable business decision YouTube made years ago. In order to scale up, YouTube got rid of human editors who were in charge of curating recommendations and turned to AI instead.
The algorithm is only feeding you one side. So after watching like 20 videos of flat Earth videos, some people will start believing, wow, that might actually be true. And for the algorithm, it was like a fantastic win to have someone watch 20 videos in a row.
Remember, the more time you spend on YouTube, the more ads they can sell. But now the company is grappling with the unintended consequences of favoring videos that keep you on the site longer, regardless of content. Last year, Shalot created algotransparency.org, a site that tries to mimic how YouTube recommends videos. His software assumes you're a viewer with no prior history on the site. It shows that when you search for, is the Earth flat or round, for example, you're more likely to be recommended flat Earth conspiracy videos. Or if you look for videos about vaccinations, you'll most likely get anti-vaxxer theories. In a statement to Vice News, YouTube said that while it considers watch time in its algorithm, it now uses a greater variety of signals than it used to. 400 hours of content is uploaded every minute to YouTube, meaning the problem will only become more difficult.
It's very surprising that we're using the best machine learning of the world to optimize how much time you waste on your device.
Is it my cup of tea? No. Fantastic groove, fantastic energy, great brass. Obviously is a very strong Afro-American beat and flavor. I mean, you can hear soul music, funk, blues, swing of the 30s, I hear everything there. It's fantastically well produced, I like it very much. Maybe not. Anything else? It's good. I like the intro, the voice. The voice is very, and the treatment of the voice. I like the arpeggio, little motif, the keyboard. It's very good. It seems more adult and darker, but very lyrical. It could be vampires. Is it Twilight 5? It's great. I like the arrangement and the vocals in the back. I don't know if it's serious or funny. I'm not sure. Because the way the background vocals enter, like little puppets in the background, a bit comical, not cheesy.
Baby, if I wrote you a symphony, tell me what you play along. Come on,
Dancing music is fantastic, a great singer. It's a very joyful kind of R&B mix with disco by the pool. Yeah. There's one word I really enjoyed, symphony.
That's Vice News Tonight for Monday, March 5th.